Welcome to Film Majors. I'm your host, William Stewart with the Hoosier Network, and this is a show breaking down film of Indiana sports or some of the biggest collegiate games in the country at the time, and we learn why the game went the way it did. It was an all-time chaotic national championship that took place just 48 hours ago. And if you're not entirely sure how Houston blew that lead or how Florida figured it out down the stretch, we'll break it down in today's lesson. Roll it! Florida won this game 65-63, but they hardly led until the literal final 48 seconds of the contest, and everything that could have went wrong for both teams' game plans at some point in this game. We'll get into the film and get a deep dive into it. First play we're going to look at, Emmanuel Sharp driving, gets swatted. Florida's defense was kind of a problem all night, and that was the thing with both teams. But what they did here, immediately outletting it up to Clayton, who then was able to dump it down into Condon, is something that Florida really should have emphasized using more on than they did in the game. That was one thing that I liked that they did. It was early on, and it was only a few times, but there was just outlets, just moving it quick. They have those bigs in Condon and Handeltogen who were kind of dominant all night. They were getting looks inside that Houston really couldn't stop. And when they did stop them, you know, Florida would stop Houston just going the other way, like we saw at the beginning of that clip. I don't know why Florida went away from it. It's something Todd Golden must have not liked. I don't really understand that part. That's going to be something with this game is we're going to be talking about a lot of things because there's stuff we just can't show. It'll just be a meaningless miss, but it's like, hey, this game plan is switching every few minutes. Sampson and Golden were kind of in a chess match the entire game, and the first half was kind of figuring things out. So obviously Florida started with outlet passes, but they went away from them for really no reason that anyone's kind of figured out. The next play we'll go into, we're going to look at Houston here. It's Cryer into the beautiful pick and roll that he had with his big man. And the more prominent thing to look at is the absent Florida defense. There's two men who are immediately crashing down on the Cryer, and nobody is playing the roll man here. Leads to an easy layup and another two for Houston early in the game. I don't know why Florida's defense was such a problem all game, but it consistently seemed to be a thing. And here it is again. Emmanuel Sharp comes off the elevator screen. He ran up right here, and then obviously stops right here at the top of the key. Uzan just able to lay it off right to him. And it's a wide open shot. I mean, it's an extremely lazy contest from Handeltogen, who's, I think, was down in the half circle maybe. Luckily for Florida, Sharp hardly even hit the rim. Rebound able to go the other way. And here's the outlet pass. Again, Handeltogen, he's got so much size over that Houston team. I still don't understand why Golden went away from it because it was helping out Florida in a spot where Clayton wasn't really shooting the ball that well. But next play we'll look at, it's going to be L.J. Cryer. He comes off this screen here. It's a really good action, and it's a hard set screen by Javi Air Francis. And look at the finish. Huh! On his head. I got to watch that back. It's so nasty. I mean, the pass is beautiful. I don't know why I know why Florida's doubling Cryer here and here. One of the best shooters in the country, and there's just no help. Under the rim. Ugh. It's the extension and everything on the dunk here. It's just, it's A1 stuff. Beautiful play by Javier Francis there. Beautiful finish. Next play, we're still in the first half here. You're going to watch this double screen. You got one here and one here, two set by Florida. And coming around is Elijah Martin. And he's able to lose L.J. Cryer and leads to an easy layup. And Houston was kind of rolling. It was kind of inconsistent, but there was moments where they look together. They would look like a really complete team. But I think it's just the Houston defense. It's not I think, it was. The Houston defense, we talked about it last week, that's really inhumane how good they are. They're so ferocious on the defensive end that they just threw Florida off their game plan over and over and over again. And Florida never really got into a consistent path apart from a few layups, and those outlet passes were working consistently. I just don't understand where they got away from them. We got one more play in the first half, and we'll get into the takeaways. The next play, it's this high pick and roll that Florida loved way too much that was causing issue after issue after issue. Obviously, Houston's going to double the best player in the NCAA tournament at the moment in time and not worry about anybody else. And Clayton, since he's been so hot, he's been usually shooting this ball, but he's able to get this little gap right here. He feeds it down into his big, who immediately kicks it out. And Will Richard, this is when he started to get hot, hits his first three of the night there. And Houston went into halftime with only a 3-point lead. And the thing to notice with both teams by halftime, they were shooting identical splits, 38% from the field, 25% from three. It's disgusting work because both defenses were just so good all night. And that first half, like I said, both coaches were trying to figure each other out, trying to get open looks. And the one open look that seemed to be a consistent was Florida on outlet passes to their big man. But they went away from it. The high pick and roll wasn't working. And we'll look into the second half, and it continues to not work. Shocker. And Houston, we've kind of been over it 3 or 4 times now this season that they're just not an offensive powerhouse. Them scoring 30 is pretty on brand at this point by halftime. And, of course, both teams ended with 60, which seems to be the average for Houston's offense. The one thing Houston normally has an advantage in is inside. They rebound extremely well. They're a hustle team. While they didn't have the height to compete with Florida, they had the heart. That's what it is. And the rebounds were nearly identical as well. Florida led by, I think, 2 or 3 rebounds at halftime. They had another offensive rebound, I think, but it wasn't too much of a difference. The game was tough. It was physical. It was gritty. Like I've said a couple of times, it's Sampson and Golden just playing chess. The first half was really a feeler for both teams to kind of figure out what they can unleash in the second half, what they need to go away from, and we'll look at that right now. First play we're going to look at into the second half is after this is before Florida's 4 fouls. But immediately, Clayton's going to get doubled because it was a beautiful fake screen down here by Condon. He's able to roll, and there's obviously nobody inside there to stop him. Easy flush for 2. And the next play, this is after Florida's 5 fouls. This is what I was talking about. That was something that kind of prominent in the second half was just the amount of fouls. We'll get into Houston's here in a second, but Florida fouling 5 times in the next minute of gameplay. That last clip was at 18.5. This is 17.5. They went from 0 fouls to 5 fouls. I don't know what changed with the refereeing in this game, but they were calling everything, which is something that swung the momentum. Obviously for Florida, we'll get into why that did, or if you remember from Monday night, the refereeing in this game did a total 180 after halftime. The next play we'll look at is a great inbounds play by Houston, and set for none other than L.J. Cryer. Emmanuel Sharpie comes down from the top of the screen to try and just cause a commotion here, and you see circled right there is L.J. Cryer. He's going to come and get a screen right here on his outside shoulder, and he's immediately going to flare to the corner, wide open 3, bang. Can't leave that guy open, but it's a great play design by Houston. And this next play by Florida is arguably just as good for also their star player. What it looks like, he's got Hawk at the top of the key. You've got one screen here by Condon, and you see another screen starting to get set by Clayton Jr. And the wraparound here by Richard, but he's like, wait a minute, let me re-screen. And then for the best shooter on the court, Clayton, he's going to be able to roll here, and a wide open pop. And there's 3, his first 3 of the night, which came really late into the second half. And we're going to jump to this final play, but before we jump to it, as I'm going to talk about how Florida was able to come back. That was one of the few field goals they hit in the second half because Houston fouled, over 10 times in the second half between that first, 15 minutes and where we're at now with the last few minutes of the game. There was a 6-minute stretch where they fouled 7 times. You can't have that. Houston's physicality got the better of them, I guess, because the refereeing kind of changed halfway through the game. We went through the first half with 4 combined fouls. We got to the second half, and there was 20 in the second half alone. Over 20. I don't even remember the exact number because it was so astronomical. But the momentum totally changes. Florida's lead was taken, shockingly, by free throws because they took at least 10 of them in the last 3 minutes of the game, or 5 minutes of the game maybe. The final 5-minute highlight is 25 minutes long because it's so many free throws and so many fouls. But we'll get into this last play where Houston obviously had a great chance to call a game, but didn't. Final play is Cryer bringing it up the court. He's at the top of the screen. The first thing you see is Uzan flaring because they're giving the ball to their most trusted playmaker at this point in the tournament. And immediately, Houston sets 2 screens for none other than the best shooter on the court, L.J. Cryer. He comes around, gets the ball. He's the first option, but he's really a decoy. Because why? Houston's doubling Florida's doubling at this point. And you see Richard on him immediately playing great on-ball defense, and the bigs are still right here to help because they're not going to allow a 3. There's no chance when you're up 2. The one person to notice, Emmanuel Sharp. Obviously, we all know what happens, but he gets this elevator screen here that Francis kind of entirely misses if you watch this slowly. And it allows for Clayton to play late defense. We talked about it with that first half clip where there was no rotational defense from Florida. And you see Clayton's supposed to be guarding Sharp. That's about a 15-foot gap where you probably shouldn't leave with 3 seconds left of the national championship on the line and the best shooter on the court, or one up. And Sharp gets it. Clayton able to close out because Francis made no contact on him at all. And then, obviously, there's the double dribble. I don't know if Sharp lost confidence. I don't know what happened, but there's the ball game. The ruling on that is tough as well. Supposedly, Sharp could have picked it up because he was in the air and dribbled. Sharp obviously wasn't read up enough on this double dribble rule. I don't think anybody was in this instance, but one play doesn't decide a game. That last play obviously has some pull. You get a last shot off and don't even get a last shot. But Houston's fouls, like I was just touching on, they put Florida into the bonus like halfway through the half. That you can't have that because they gave up 5 to 10 free throws in the last 5 minutes of the game. That's what allowed Florida to make that 10-point comeback because they were down 10 with like 12, 15 minutes to go. It was a well-earned win by Florida still. They wouldn't go away. They were pestering Houston on defense the entire game. I kind of skipped over it, but those doubles that they were sending were constantly causing Houston to turn the ball over, giving them issues. And Florida, they were in a defensive rhythm, and they got the better of Houston. And they end the season as the 2025 national champions. But that will do it for this week's lesson. And that will do it for this season of Film Majors with the end of college basketball. Thank you for joining us along the way. We'll be back come college football next season in the fall, or this fall, whatever you want to call it. For Hoosier Network, I'm William Stewart. Thank you for joining me. Till next time, have a great week, and God bless.